The sky over the planet Hadron burned with fire and smoke. Warships screamed through the clouds. Explosions shook the ground. It was the last battlefield of the long war between the United Galactic Alliance and the Jerak Swarm. In the middle of the chaos, a human soldier named Corwin Hale ran across the field. His armor was damaged. His left arm was bleeding, but he didn't stop. He was carrying a wounded alien officer on his back, a tall, silver-skinned woman with violet eyes. He didn't know who she was. He just saw someone in danger and acted. "On," he shouted, breathing hard. The woman tried to speak, but blood filled her mouth. Still, she looked at him not with fear, but with surprise. Corwin dragged her into cover behind a pile of wrecked drones. He used a healing foam on her wound. Then he turned and opened fire on the incoming Jerak. His aim was sharp, his will stronger than his body. He fought until reinforcements arrived. By the time medics came, the woman was unconscious, and Corwin had passed out beside her. 2 months later, the war was over. The Jerak hive was broken. Peace had returned to the galaxy after nearly 30 years of terror now. The leaders of the Alliance were gathered in a great hall on Arkan Prime, the capital of the Galactic Union. The victory ceremony was about to begin. The hall was filled with hundreds of species green-skinned Ielleri, flame-eyed, Trun, scaled Nomari, and proud Nyrans, and among them stood a group of human soldiers. Wearing medals on their chests, Corwin Hale stood at the back, uncomfortable in his dress uniform. He didn't like attention. He was just glad the war was over. A voice echoed through the hall. "Now, presenting High Commander Valari of the Nyrian Dominion." The crowd turned. The tall, silver-skinned woman from the battlefield walked in, dressed in a dark, ceremonial robe. A long purple cloak trailed behind her. A golden crest rested on her forehead. She was no ordinary officer. She was a queen. Corwin's eyes widened in shock. "That's her," he whispered. Valari walked with grace and strength. She had once led an entire fleet into battle. She had never lost. Her people called her the Blade of Honor. She reached the front of the hall, where the leaders of the council sat. The head of the Galactic Union, a floating being of light, addressed her. "You have served with unmatched courage, Queen Valari. In honor of your service, you may request one reward, any reward permitted by the laws of peace." "Heart desire?" There was a long pause. Valari looked around the hall, her violet eyes scanning the crowd. Then slowly she raised her hand. "I choose," she said, her voice clear and calm. "The human soldier named Corwin Hale." A stunned silence fell over the room. Corwin felt like the air had been sucked out of his lungs. "Wait. What?" he said out loud. Murmurs began to rise. People looked at each other in shock. Few even laughed, thinking it was a joke. But Valari was serious. "I owe my life to him," she continued. "He did not know me. He had no reason to help me. Yet he risked his life for mine. I choose him as my reward." Corwin stepped forward slowly, confused and nervous. He saluted awkwardly. Your Majesty, I don't think I understand." "You will," Valari said gently. "Come." The council was silent. The rules were clear. Her request did not break any law. It had to be granted. A human diplomat stepped forward, springing into the council's ear. "He's not property," the diplomat said. "You can't just give him away." Valari turned to him. "I ask not to own him," she said firmly. "I ask only that he come with me willingly." All eyes turned to Corwin. His mouth felt dry. His hands were shaking. Everyone waited. Finally, he looked at Valari. "I don't know why you want me, but I'll come. Just tell me what this is all about." Later, on the royal ship Silver Flame, Corwin stood in a quiet chamber, looking out at the stars. Behind him, the doors opened, and Valari stepped in. "Are you afraid?" she asked softly. He turned to face her. "Not really, just confused." "I understand. Why me?" he asked. "You could have asked for anything. A fleet, a planet, a throne. Why a human soldier from the back lines?" Valari walked closer. She looked different without her armor, less like a warrior, more like a person. You saved me, she said. Not because I was important, not because of my title. You saw someone dying, and you acted. No hesitation, no reward expected. Corwin shrugged. Anyone would have done the same. No, she said. Not anyone, and certainly not among my people. We are trained to suppress emotions. We fight with logic, not kindness. But that day, you showed me something my people have forgotten. She looked him in the eyes. You showed me the human heart. Corwin didn't know what to say.
No one
Had ever talked to him like that before. Valari continued. It's the law of my world allows me to ask for a life debt reward. But I didn't choose you to repay that debt. I chose you because I wish to know you better. You may leave at any time. But I hope you stay. Corwin stared at her, silent. Are you asking me to be your servant? He asked slowly. No, she said. Not a servant, not a soldier, not a slave. Just stay as yourself. A long pause. Then Corwin nodded. Okay, I'll stay. Back on Arkan. Prime, the news spread like wildfire. Alien Queen chooses a human. What does she want with him? Is he her mate? Her bodyguard? A symbol? People argued. Some were shocked. Some were angry. Some were jealous. So others were curious. But none could deny one thing. The galaxy had seen many things in the Long War. But this was something no one expected. The royal ship Silver Flame moved through deep space with silent speed. Inside, Corwin Hale walked through smooth silver halls, still unsure why he was there. Alien soldiers bowed their heads when Valari passed. She walked with silent grace. Tall and proud, her face unreadable. Corwin followed behind, awkward in his plain clothes. He had been given soft robes, but he still missed his old combat boots. The Queen stopped at a door. It opened with a soft hiss. This will be your room, she said. You may change it as you wish. Corwin stepped inside. The room was larger than any place he had stayed in during the war. There was a bed, a desk, and a large window showing the stars. He turned to her. Are you sure you want me here? Yes, Valari replied calmly. But I do not wish you to feel trapped. You are free to leave the ship at any time. My people will take you anywhere you want. Corwin was silent for a moment. Then he asked, What do your people think about me? They're confused, Valari admitted. Some are angry. Some curious. But I gave them an order they will not harm or insult you. Corwin sat down on the edge of the bed. I'm still not sure why you chose me. Valari stayed quiet for a moment, then stepped closer. I was trained to lead armies, she said. To never show weakness, to never ask for anything. I have fought more battles than I can count. But the day you saved me, something inside me changed. Corwin looked up. I didn't even know who you were. That is why it mattered. The next few days passed slowly. Corwin explored the ship. Nyrian architecture was strange. Everything curved like flowing water. The air smelled faintly of flowers, and soft lights pulsed in the walls. The Nyrian crew treated Corwin with respect, but kept their distance. To them, he was an outsider and more than that, the Queen's chosen reward. But Valari made time for him every evening. They walked through the ship's garden dome, a place filled with blue-leaved trees and soft wind. One night Corwin asked, Were you serious about me being free? I could really leave. Yes, she said simply. You owe me nothing. I brought you here because I wanted to learn from you. Learn from me? He laughed. I'm just a soldier. You're a queen. You're more than a soldier, Valari said. You've saved lives. You acted without fear. You inspired me. Corwin looked away, a little embarrassed. Where I come from, people don't talk like that. Valari tilted her head. Where I come from, people don't feel like that. That night, Valari received a message from the Nyrian High Council. Noble from her world, Lord Varnick, had issued a formal protest, claimed her choice of a human as a companion was disgraceful. He warned that if she continued, she could lose the support of the council. Valari sat in silence. Reading the message alone in her chamber, she had expected this, but she had not expected the pain it would cause. The next morning, Corwin found Valari waiting for him in the garden. "You seem different today," he said. "There is news," she said. "My people are angry. They think I have dishonored my position." Corwin frowned. "Because of me?" "Yes." He sat beside her on the bench. "Then maybe I should go." Valari looked at him sharply. "No," he blinked. "But you are not the cause of this. Their anger comes from fear. Fear of change. Fear of seeing things they do not understand." Corwin looked down. "Maybe they're right. I'm not like you. I don't belong in a palace, or a warship, or beside a queen." Aladi turned to him. For the first time, her voice was softer. "Do you think I wanted to be queen?" she said. "I was born into this, trained to be what others needed." Number. "One never asked me what I wanted." Corwin met her gaze. "What do you want?" She paused. Then, for the first time, she whispered, "I want someone who sees me, not the crown, not the armor, just me." Later that day, Corwin entered the training hall. He watched Nyrian warriors practice sword forms, fast, graceful. Deadly, one of the warriors, a tall female with sharp green eyes, approached him. "You are the human the queen chose," she said. Her voice was not friendly. "I guess I am," Corwin replied. "You do not belong here. I've heard that before. But if the queen has chosen you, then you must prove you are worthy." "Worthy?" he asked. "In our culture, warriors earn their place through skill and strength." Corwin crossed his arms. "I didn't come here to fight." "Then you will always be seen as weak." Corwin thought for a moment, then he sighed. "All right, teach me." The next few days were hard. Corwin trained with the Nyrian warriors. He learned their blade forms, their movements, their breathing. He was slower, weaker, and less flexible. But he didn't give up. Valerie watched in silence, pride growing in her chest. She saw how the others began to respect him, not because of who she was, but because of who he was. One evening, they stood together on the observation deck. Stars stretched out before them. "You've changed," Valari said quietly. "So have you," Corwin replied. She turned to him. "Do you regret coming?" He shook his head. "No, but I still don't understand what you see in me." Valari stepped closer. "You remind me of something my people forgot. Kindness, loyalty, heart." He smiled. "And you remind me that even warriors can feel." They stood in silence for a while. Then Valari said, "There is one more thing. A noble named Lord Varnick has challenged me." "To what?" "A ritual challenge. To test whether I am fit to lead, and whether I am fit to keep you." Corwin frowned. "What kind of challenge?" "A trial of strength, mind, and truth. Must face him. And you may be asked to stand beside me as my shieldmate." He laughed nervously. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that." Valari looked into his eyes. "You do not have to fight. Just stay." Corwin took a deep breath. "I'll be there." But even as they stood together, far across space, Lord Varnick prepared his forces. He wanted the crown. He wanted power. And he would use the ancient laws to take it from her. He did not understand why she chose a human, but he would make her pay for it. The Nyrian royal palace floated above the planet Syraxis, built into a massive crystalline tower that glowed under twin suns. It was the heart of Valarius Domainin now, the center of growing tension. Valari stood on a high balcony, arms crossed, her long cloak blowing gently in the wind. Below, banners fluttered, and soldiers marched in formation, preparing for the ancient ritual known as the Trial of Merit. Inside the palace halls, whispers spread like fire. Did she really? Bring a human. He will disgrace her. She chose weakness. But some voices were different. He stood beside her. He trained with our warriors. He did not run. Corwin Hall walked through the palace alone. The silver halls were cold, and the stares he received were sharper than any blade. He wasn't used to such silence, such judgment. He passed a group of young Nyrian nobles. They didn't speak to him, but one of them muttered, "The queen deserves better." Corwin stopped. He turned calmly and said, "She doesn't need your permission." Then he walked away. He didn't feel brave, but he wasn't going to run. Later, he joined Valari in the war, Gardenain. Open field, surrounded by stone statues of past rulers. Weapons lined the walls. This was where leaders practiced before trials. Valari handed him a long staff. Train with this today, not to fight, but to balance. Corwin took it and nodded. I'm ready. Yes. They trained. Valari moved with perfect grace. Corwin stumbled, lost his balance, then got up again. She watched him, silent at first. Then she said, "You fall, but you always stand again." He smiled. "It's a human habit." She paused, then stepped closer. "That is why I chose you." Corwin looked at her. "Do you regret it?" Valari shook her head. "No, but they will not make this easy for us." That night, Valari met with the royal council. 12 Nyrian elders, old and wise, but cold and proud. Lord Varnick stood. Among them, tall and sharp-eyed, dressed in black armor, edged with gold. His voice was loud and full of confidence. "Your choice weakens us," he said. "A human? A low-born soldier? You shame the blood of our ancestors." Valari didn't flinch. "I need not defend my heart to you." "You lead with emotion," Varnick spat, "not logic. You forget your duty." She stepped forward. "My duty is to protect our future, and our future is not built on walls. It's built on change." Varnick's eyes narrowed. "Then prove it. Stand before the trial of merit. Let the gods decide." The council agreed. The ancient laws were clear. If Vellery lost, she would lose her title. When Vellery told Corwin, would be cast out. When Vellery told Corwin, "This is really happening," he said. "Yes," she answered. "And if you lose?" I lose everything. My throne, my name, and you." Corwin looked at her. "Then we don't lose." The palace grounds turned into a place of preparation. Workers built the Circle of Truth, a wide arena with ancient markings and glowing stones. The trial would test 3 things: strength, mind, and heart. Valari would face Lord Varnick in each, and in the final test, she would not stand alone. She would choose a shieldmate Corwin. The night before the trial, Corwin stood in his room, staring at a polished Nyrian sword lying on the table. He had trained, he had bled, but he still felt small. Valari entered quietly. "You doubt yourself?" she said. Corwin nodded. "I'm not one of you." "No," she said, "you are not." She walked closer. "And that is your strength." At dawn, the arena was full. Irons stood in silence, their faces cold. Leaders from other worlds watched from above. Valari stepped into the ring, dressed in light armor that shimmered silver blue. Her hair was tied back, and her eyes burned like fire. Lord Varnick stood opposite her, dressed in black. His face showed no emotion. The first challenge began. Strength, they fought with long blades. Moving with speed and precision, sparks flew. The crowd gasped. Corwin watched from the edge, hands clenched. Valari took a hit to the shoulder but stood firm. The sudden twist. She disarmed Varnick and knocked him to the ground. The crowd murmured. The second test began. Mind. Both stood before an ancient Nyrian AI that asked questions of logic, history, and leadership. Varnick answered quickly with pride. Valari spoke slowly but wisely. The AI glowed bright, announcing, "The Queen wins by insight." Varnick's jaw tightened. Now came the final test. Heart. This was not a battle of fists or words, but a moment of truth. Each would choose a person to stand beside them and reveal their true thoughts. Varnick chose a Nyrian priest. Valari chose Corwin. Gasps filled the arena. Corwin stepped into the ring wearing armor shaped to his body. His hands shook, but his eyes were steady. He stood beside Valari. The priest and Corwin were asked one question. "Do you believe your champion leads with honor?" The priest answered first. "Lord Varnick is strong, clever. He does not show weakness." Corwin took a breath, then said, "Valari leads with courage. She listens, she changes, she cares." He looked at the crowd. She saved her people. She earned every bit of her title. She doesn't need me to prove it, but I'm proud to stand with her." The silence was long. Then the arena lights shifted. The ancient AI declared, "Trial complete. Queen Valari is worthy." The crowd rose. Some bowed. Others clapped, and many were silent, thinking, questioning, wondering. Varnick left without a word, his face pale, his plan failed. In her private chambers, Valari removed her armor slowly. Corwin sat nearby, sore and tired but smiling. "You did it," he said. "We did it," she replied. He looked at her. "What happens now?" She walked over, eyes soft. "Now, I ask you to stay, not as reward, not as duty." But because I want you here." Corwin stood. "I've been called a lot of things, but never a reward." Valari smiled a rare, quiet smile. "You're not. You're a gift." They stood close, not touching, but closer than ever. Across the stars, the story spread. The alien queen and the human soldier. The trial. The stand. Some mocked it, some feared it, but many were moved. Galaxy had seen power. Now it saw something new. Honor, loyalty, and heart. The city of Syraxis was quiet that morning. No sirens, no shouting, no alarms. But deep inside the Nyrian palace, tension was building like a storm. The trial of merit had ended. Valari had won. Peace did not return, because Lord Varnick was not finished. He had sent a new challenge of final, one known only in ancient law. It's the trial by honor, a fight to the death. One last chance to take the crown from Valari, using the oldest right of all, strength in battle. This trial could not be refused. If she lost, she would not just lose her crown, she would lose her life. Valari sat in silence at the edge of the garden lake. Her armor lay beside her. She wore only a soft robe, her hair unbound, flowing like silver silk. She did not look like a queen. She looked like a woman carrying 1,000 burdens. Corwin stood nearby, watching her quietly. Then he walked forward and sat beside her. "You don't have to do this," he said gently. Valari shook her head. "Yes, I do. It is law. If I run, my name is erased forever. My people will fall into Varnick's hands." Corwin looked at the water. "I thought we passed the tests. Thought the council would finally accept you." "They accepted the result," Valari said. "But not me." "Well, let me fight beside you again." She turned to him. "This time you cannot. It is one-on-one.
No shieldmates.
Shh, no words. Just blade and honor." Corwin clenched his fists. "Then I want to train you. I want to do something. I won't just stand and watch." She gave him a small nod. "I would be honored." For the next 2 days, they trained together in Secretat. Night, under the stars. Corwin was no master, but he had learned human-style combat, speed, unpredictability, motion. Valari already had power and precision. But she began to learn something new from Corwin: fluid movement, tactical feints. Reading emotion during a fight, she even smiled once when he made her trip using a simple human move. "You cheat," she said. "No," he replied. "I adapt." On the third morning, the palace bell rang. The sound echoed through the crystal halls. It was time. Valari stood in the center of the dome of trials. Dressed in light silver armor, her hair braided tight. Her blade rested on her back, long and curved. Lord Varnick entered from the opposite side, dressed in black and gold. His armor looked like a predator's skin. His eyes were full of rage. The arena was full of nobles, soldiers, and diplomats from across the galaxy. Even humans had come: officers, ambassadors, and former comrades of Corwin Hall. Corwin stood at the edge of the ring, hands gripping the railing. The air was cold. A deep voice spoke from above. "Begin the trial by honor." The moment the trial started, Varnick attacked with brutal force. The strikes were heavy, aimed to break bone and tear armor. But Valari moved like water, dodging, parrying, waiting. She remembered Corwin's words: "Don't try to win fast." "Let him wear himself down." Varnick grew angry. He shouted insults. "You gave yourself to a lesser being. You shame us all." Valari didn't answer. She just fought. Minutes passed. Sweat rolled down her face. Her shoulder bled from a near miss, but she was still standing. And then she saw her moment. Varnick overreached. She spun low, swept his legs, and drove the back of her blade against his chest, knocking him flat. She stepped back, blade ready. "Yield," she said, but Varnick roared and lunged again, this time with poison in his blade. Legal dishonorable. Deadly, the crowd gasped. V'Lari barely dodged. The blade sliced her side. She fell to one knee, breathing hard. Corwin shouted, "Vel!" But she looked up, steady, and smiled. Then, with one final move, a twist, a feint. A downward strike, she shattered Varnick's blade and slammed her fist into his chest. Varnick collapsed, coughing blood. V'Lari stood over him. "You had no honor," she said, "and now you have no name." She turned to the council and threw Varnick's broken blade at their feet. "I have one. Not for power, not for pride, but for peace." The arena exploded in noise. Cheers, applause, even the coldest elders stood and bowed. Later, in the healing chamber, V'Lari lay on a white bed, her side bandaged. Corwin sat beside her, holding her hand. "You scared me," he whispered. "You always worry," she replied, eyes half closed. "You always get stabbed." Larry laughed, smile. V'Lari laughed softly, a sound he had only heard once before. "I'm still here," said. "Good," he said. "Because I have a question." She turned her head, curious. "I know you're a queen. I know you live in a palace and lead armies. But I have to ask." He leaned closer. "Would you want to visit Earth?" V'Lari blinked in surprise. "Earth?" "Home," Corwin said. "It's noisy, messy, too hot in summer, and our food might burn your tongue. But it's got trees, oceans, music, and people who might just understand you." V'Lari smiled. "Then yes, one day I will come." A week passed. The Nyrian people accepted V'Lari's victory. Lord Varnick was sent into exile, and a new era began. The Queen of the Nyrans walked beside a human, not as master and servant, but as equals. Whispers changed, from "Why him?" to "Maybe this is what the galaxy needs." One evening, as stars lit up the sky, Corwin and V'Lari stood on the palace balcony. Below them, lights danced and ships soared. "I never imagined this," Corwin said quietly. "When I joined the army, I thought I'd die in a trench somewhere." V'Lari looked at him. "I never imagined choosing someone with no title, no rank, just heart." He turned to her. "Do you regret it?" She shook her head. "I chose once, and I choose again." She took his hand. "You are not my prize. You are my peace." The skies above Syraxis were calm.
Oh.
No more warships flew overhead. No explosions shook the ground. For the first time in decades, the capital of the Nyrian Dominion was at peace. And in that peace, something new was growing. It wasn't a treaty. It wasn't technology. It was a bond between a human soldier and an alien queen. Inside the palace, Corwin Hales stood at the window of his room. He looked down at the quiet city. He could see gardens blooming, children playing, and Nyrian banners fluttering in the wind. So much had changed. He was no longer just a nameless soldier. People knew his name now. Some admired him, some hated him, but no one ignored him. Behind him, the door opened. V'Lari entered, dressed not in armor, but in soft robes, the color of moonlight. "You're up early," she said gently. Corwin turned and smiled. "Old habits." She stepped beside him. "Changed since the day I first saw you." Bleeding, confused, carrying me across a battlefield, Corwin chuckled. Looked more terrifying back then. V'Lari tilted her head. "Do I not still?" "No," he said softly. "Now you look free." She paused. "Maybe that's because of you." The following week was filled with celebration. The Unity Festival was held a once-in-a-decade event that honored peace between races. This year, the council invited humans as honored guests for the first time ever. V'Lari stood at the center of the great plaza, wearing ceremonial armor etched with silver vines and blue light. Her head held high, She spoke to the crowd of thousands. Once we fought alone, she said. Now we rise together. She turned and extended her hand. Corwin walked out beside her, dressed in Nyrian robes mixed with earth symbols. He didn't wear weapons, just a calm smile. I was given a choice, Valari said. Any reward, any treasure. Her voice grew quiet. I chose a human. Not for power, not for duty, but because in the darkest moment he showed me the light. The crowd listened in silence. I do not take him as property. I do not take him as a symbol. I stand beside him as equal, as companion, as heart. She turned to Corwin. Before all who hear us, I ask, will you walk beside me not as my soldier, but as my mate? A breathless silence. Then Corwin stepped forward. I thought I didn't belong here. I thought I'd be forgotten after the war. He looked at her. But you saw me, and when I was ready to leave, you gave me a reason to stay. He took her hand. Yes, I'll walk beside you, not as a reward, but as a partner. The crowd erupted in cheers. That night the stars were bright, and the palace halls were filled with music from many worlds. Strange instruments played soft melodies. Humans and aliens danced together awkwardly. But happily, Corwin stood beside Valari at a long balcony table, sipping something purple that tasted like spicy fruit. A young human officer approached. Him. You're the reason the Queen picked Earth as her first off-world visit, aren't you? The officer asked, grinning. Corwin shrugged. She likes mountains. Earth's got plenty. The officer nodded. Some of us didn't believe it at first, you and her. But now. He looked out at the party. Now it makes sense. Corwin smiled. She chose me when no one else would have. I think that's something we all hope for. A few days later, Valeri's personal ship, the Silver Flame, left Nyri in space, carrying her and Corwin toward Earth. It was the first time a Nyrian queen would step foot on a human world. As the ship entered Earth's orbit, hundreds of human ships flew nearby to greet her. She watched from the viewing window, quiet and thoughtful. You're nervous, Corwin said beside her. She nodded. Your world is new to me. It is strange, but it is yours. And I wish to understand it. Corwin took her hand. You're not alone. When they landed, Earth greeted them with open arms. From soldiers to farmers, from children to teachers, people gathered in peace to see the alien queen who had chosen love over power. Valerie visited museums, spaceports, oceans, and forests. She laughed when she touched snow for the first time. She stared for hours at animals she had never seen before. Birds, deer, dolphins, and in a quiet village in the mountains, she met Corwin's mother. The older woman hugged her gently. You brought him back, she whispered. Thank you. Valari held her hand and said, he saved me first. Weeks passed. News of their bond spread across systems. Some still whispered. Some doubted. But more and more people began to believe. If a human and an alien queen could understand each other, then maybe there was still hope for the rest of the galaxy. One evening, back on Nyrian soil, Valari and Corwin stood beneath a tree covered in blue leaves. Fireflies glowed around them. This world is no longer just mine, Valari said. It is ours. Corwin looked at her. Wherever we wish, she answered. Then she removed her crown and placed it on the stone bench. I wore this for duty, she said. But now I live for something more. She reached for his hand. For us. They stood together. No war, no crown, no throng, just a queen and a human far across the galaxy. Children would one day read their story, a story not of conquest, but of courage, not of victory, but of choice, not of difference, but of connection. The queen, who could have had anything, asked for one simple thing, a human, and together they built a future no one expected but everyone needed. Final line, one galaxy, two souls, and a love that changed everything.